Well, everyone, thanks for coming to hang out with me. That's why I asked you here, just so we can hang out. But no, today, we wanted to have a conversation, a casual conversation, hopefully, about the topic of social media. And the whole purpose is to kind of have people like yourselves around the circle and kind of chat. And social media is such an interesting thing, huh? Like it has flipped our world upside down. It's created new norms, some exciting stuff, some scary stuff, and that's kind of what I want to kind of dig in today. But just a question to throw out there right off the bat: do you think social media is beneficial to society? Looking now in 2020, I think it's ramped in the last decade. Is that safe to say? Since 2010, maybe it's skyrocketed. Do you think social media is beneficial to society, or do you think it's a lot more harmful to society? And why would you say your answer?
I think it's beneficial to an extent. When you think of social media, you're thinking about connecting with people in a way you can't always. When you think of a time like COVID-19 where you're very isolated from individuals, you need a way to connect. It's just when that connection over a digital platform overwhelms the need to connect in person, that it becomes a negative thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with Jeremy. During COVID, I feel like we need that personal connection, but we can't really have it in person. So when we're able to talk or text with someone, or even just reach out over social media, I think that's a really good thing that can be beneficial to a lot of people.
I also have to agree, and I think its purpose isn't inherently bad, though it's been driven into a light that's very negative, and some people can use it in negative ways. But I think it can bring people together with the same likes and hobbies and such, and connect. It can create those connections, especially in these times. It totally can, and I think it does have its benefits for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree with Jeremy too. If social media wasn't a thing right now, and I don't know, I would not be able to handle myself, because I'm a really social person, and I'm always talking to someone, even if it's on my phone or in person. So I did not have that. No. Go insane.
So where do you think the negative impact has come in for social media? Because I think you're all right. I think its original intention was to bring community together. But where do you think the negative part has happened in social media? Because there's a stat that shows that since 2007, mental health, addiction, stress, depression has kind of skyrocketed since 2007, which is coincidentally the year the iPhone was introduced. And so where do you think the negative responses come in social media in our society today?
When people start comparing themselves to the standards that are put out on social media, I think that's when it becomes a real negative. Because if you're always looking at someone, like Jeremy said, who has a highlight reel on their social media, you can look at it and look internally, and you can see all the bad things in yourself, and you don't realize that they're only showing off the good things in their life, and you're comparing it to an unattainable standard.
Yeah, I agree with Josh. I think that's where it can get super negative, and the whole idea of trends and what's in and what's not, especially for everyone, but I think for a younger audience as well, putting those standards, and you don't know who's on the app, you don't know their age, and maybe this 11, 12-year-old girl's comparing herself to Jeremy knows Kim Kardashian.
Okay, first things first. That's a rather hyperbolic example of someone
Okay.
on social media. Okay? And it's not my fault that her stupid posts are put on my social platform.
Okay.
Okay? That is the algorithm's fault, not my fault.
Well, I'm trying to say just unrealistic standards that causes, I think that's what can drive people to those mental illnesses and feeling insecure and unsure about who you are when you're just comparing yourself to something that isn't real.
You know, one thing that God has intended for every single one of us is to be in community. And in community, how do you build that? It is through conversation, right? And so with social media being such a huge reality and everyone on their phones, and the reality is that, you know, the stats say it, that approximately teens are like, you know, multiple hours of screen time per day. Do you think that's helping us? Do you think social media is helping our in-person conversation skills, or do you think it's robbing us of our conversation skills nowadays in person?
I think it does. It can totally damage our in-person conversations, and like with Sandra, you were saying how you see the dependence that you start growing on social media, and like the example of an interview, like you don't feel like you can go on your own or ask someone for help, but you have to rely on that for answers, and then when you get to the actual interview, it's like you're on your own. That's when you're speaking for yourself, and so I think it has a negative impact on the way that we in person, how we communicate in that way.
Okay. Just a couple of facts for you guys. So number one, a 5,000 person study found that higher social media use correlated with self-reported declines in mental and physical health and overall life satisfaction. And the second fact is teenagers who spend 3 hours a day or more on devices are 35% more likely, and those who spend 5 hours or more are 71% more likely to have a risk factor for suicide than those who spend less than 1 hour. So the question I want to ask is, do you think mental health and social media have a correlation? If so, why?
Well, for me, I don't have social media personally, but I know that I text some people quite a bit, and I feel that when I text certain people that I don't feel that personal connection. But lately I've been trying to like reach out to people and talk to people more, whether it be on the phone or just in person. And I can feel myself physically happier when I'm with that person or talking to them and hearing their voice, rather than just having a mindless conversation over text or something. And I think that when we take the time to be personal and intentional in our conversations, that's when we can find the most growth. And I feel like those personal conversations are what is lacking in a lot of people's lives, and that might be affecting the mental health of teens our age.
Yeah, it goes a long way, I guess, because like if someone posts something, like if my best friends go do something together and like they take a picture and they post it, I'll be like, oh dang, like they're hanging out without me, and I'll be like, oh, like fear of missing out, and like
I sympathize with you.
okay.
I just feel that.
like if they do that, I'd be like, oh dang, what, like do they not want to hang out with me? And I'll like take it to heart, but then at the same time, like if they like they're friends too, like I can't be thinking about that. But like I'm always on my phone, even like at like a younger age, because like I guess I always grew up with like technology and such. So like when I was younger, I would like go to bed at 10, like at the latest, but now it's like 3, 6, 8, like I'll go to bed super late. And I'm gonna regret saying this, but I kind of didn't like the fact that my mom wouldn't take my phone as a child, because now I'm used to always having my phone when I wake up. Like that's the first thing I look at. When I go to bed, it's the last thing I look at. So when she takes my phone away from me now, I get super stressed. Like even being like away from my phone, just like a couple feet, like I just want to be on my phone. Like I'm always on my phone, and it sucks because like I'm just super reliant on it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How would you balance that your life in Jesus and social media, and like what kind of advice would you give someone that's younger, that's coming up, the social media generation, to keeping your heart soft and guarding your heart in those manners?
Well, I think you just have to make that personal time with God. That's the most important part of our spiritual journey. Is just having that intimate moment with God where you can be real with him. Because I know with social media or even texting, sometimes you're just not real with the other person. But when you're real with God, that's where we can let our feelings out. It's a safe place that we can just go to like hide in and place our trust in, because we know that God will always be there for us and he's always true. So something that I just advise people is make that time for God, and God will come to you. You don't have to do much as long as you let him in and you allow him to take over your life. He will come in, he will fill you.
Well, all in all, guys, like I'm really thankful you guys got to be part of this conversation. It was really insightful, and I love the answers you guys gave. And just know that, you know, even though this is a topic that is so real as a reality, it's cool, but it can be a bad thing if it trumps priority over God, obviously. And, you know, as students, we want to thrive in Christ and know that he has an amazing plan and purpose. And if social media is a distraction, then hey, what's the best way of getting right back with God? So thanks, guys, for joining in this conversation. I really appreciate it, and just want to thank you for your time.